Hello again everyone and welcome. My name is Tom Nelson and this is video lesson number 2, part 1. This video lesson is on cellular basics. This is the Diabetes Control 6 Steps to Gaining Complete Control Over Diabetes course. In the last video you learned how irritants and chemicals from your environment, even your medications, have caused chronic inflammation, and that likely led to the progression of damage that has led to your diagnosis, and that could either be pre-diabetes or full-blown diabetes. Now you're going to learn where diabetes resides. It happens that it resides in virtually every single cell of your body. So it's important that you learn all that you can about cells and how they function, how diabetes does what it does, and why it does what it does. There are 37 trillion cells in your body, 350 different types distinctly. On the far one end of the spectrum, you're going to have clear, soft tissue cells like in your eyes, and on the other end of the spectrum, you'll have the enamel of your teeth or your bones that are extremely hard. All of the cells are microscopic in size. If you pulled a hair out of your head and oriented so you could see the end of it, it would actually disappear because it's too small to be seen with the naked eye directly on from the end. But yet all 37 trillion of these cells are only 1/10 the diameter of that human hair. They vary in size. The human egg is the largest and the sperm cell is the smallest. But they all have the exact same organelles, as they're called, inside. Now I call these small cities. This is a artist's rendition of what a human cell might look like. And this small city is very typical from every angle of every single one of those 350 different types, in that everything you see inside of it is the same in every other one, despite some of them may being part of your eyes or the others being part of your bones. So every single one of those cells needs to be fed. They need nutrition. And so your body is structured so that it can feed each and every single one of those cells. You see, at the very top, there's a very, very tiny capillary blood vessel. There's also one shown on the right-hand side and another on the bottom. The one on the top feeds the nutritionally rich plasma to each and every one of your cells. The one on the right picks up what has been used, in other words, all of the nutrients being removed. And the bottom one is the lymph, which picks up whatever's left, waste products and so forth. So you have three basically different types of capillary blood vessels. In the upper left, you see a blow-up of a capillary blood vessel. And you can see that that capillary blood vessel is designed to leak. None of the other vessels in your body are. So those little slits that are in those capillary blood vessels are designed to allow, every time your heart beats, under pressure, for this very rich, nutritious fluid, plasma, to flow out and to flow all around the outside of every single one of the cells in your body completely. So then when they're done, when your cell has picked up all of those nutrients, as we'll explain, then the one in the upper right-hand corner reverses that, and that too is blown up, and that one is a vacuum, and it will pick up, as I explained earlier, the spent blood. All right, so this is what your vascular system looks like. It's really, there's three of them, not just the two that are shown. But the two that are shown actually form a loop. They start at the heart and they end at the heart. And each of those vessels, starting at the arteries, the largest part, it goes smaller and smaller in size, and it branches out more and more until it reaches what you see right there in the center, the capillary blood vessels. And that is where the capillary action takes place. There's trillions upon trillions upon trillions of these capillary blood vessels throughout your body. So then, once that blood has fed those cells, then the plasma that has had all of those nutrients removed will be picked up, and that right-hand side is that venule side, as it's called, and it is going to have a vacuum created by the other half of your heart, which is going to pick up the spent fluids and pass them back through so that they can be recharged, reoxygenated, and then recycled again. Your blood recirculates through your body about every hour, 25 times every single day. So that is a lot of motion, a lot of charging and recharging and capillary action and so forth. It's all vitally important. All right, so now we have what's called the extracellular matrix. At the top, on the right-hand side and the bottom, you'll see what is actually called extracellular matrix. Those are fibrous substances that literally tie those cells together to form organs or tissues. And that extracellular matrix also provides for that space around each one of those cells that will allow that plasma to flow around each cell in order to feed it. And so that capillary blood vessel weaves through that. If you could walk on the surface of one of those cells, it'd be like a very dense forest with all of this capillary blood vessels and this extracellular matrix that we're talking about. Then, on the outside of each one of these membranes, each cell has a membrane which totally encapsulates it. And that you see here, it's kind of like a hairy ping pong ball. And that membrane, of course, separates the external environment from the internal environment. It kind of defines the city limits, if you were to use that analogy. On that membrane are what's called receptors, transporters, and gates. There's a receptor, transporter, or gate for virtually everything that's in the blood that is needed inside one of these little cities. And so each one of those will receive a message from City Hall, where your DNA is stored, as to how much and what is needed inside of the city. So each of those receptors or transporters is going to be designed to capture and transport one single item through that membrane. So that would mean that there's probably a transporter or a receptor for vitamin C or vitamin A or amino acids. All types of things, anything that's needed inside that city is going to have a receptor or a transporter or a gate. And so each one of those then will be activated. They will attract and capture whatever it is that is needed inside that city, and then it's going to be passed through that membrane to the inside. And then enzymes inside will act on those and convert them into whatever is needed inside the city and store them in a warehouse. So down in the lower left-hand corner there, you see what's called an insulin receptor. It just happens that that particular receptor is specifically designed to attract, capture, and pass one molecule of insulin through the membrane of that city into the inside. And that has particular significance because when that insulin is captured and it passes through that membrane, then that triggers a gate to open, which you see over there towards the left. That gate will then open and allow one molecule of glucose to enter to the inside of that cell. And that, for many of the cells of your body, is the only way that glucose can get from your bloodstream to the inside of your cells. So, every time you eat a meal, your food is broken down, as you learned earlier, into those most basic constituents, and glucose is a primary one. And that glucose is put into the bloodstream, and then as it passes through the bloodstream, the blood sugar goes higher and higher, and because you've got 37 trillion cells that are attracting the insulin and capturing it and passing it through, and all of those gates opening, which is taking both insulin and glucose out of the bloodstream. So you could see how it wouldn't take more than an hour and a half to 2 hours for all of the glucose from a meal to be attracted, captured, and passed to the inside of the cell, and then the enzymes convert it into something called glycogen, which is a compact form of glucose. Because these are very small cities, remember, they're only 1/10 the diameter of a human hair, which is by itself too small for you to see from the end. So obviously, they're going to have to be very, very small in order for them to be able to enter. So, insulin resistance happens to be something that diabetics have, and it's caused by inflammation. Inflammation causes you to gain weight very rapidly, And that excess weight around your center is going to cause fatty liver, and that fatty liver is going to malfunction, and it's going to cause this insulin resistance. And that means when you have insulin resistance, these insulin receptors are also going to malfunction. Even though City Hall may be asking for more glucose on the inside, they are not responding, and they are not capturing and passing insulin through that membrane. So because they're not, that gate is not opening, and the glucose is not passing through. So that means that the insulin and the glucose are just going to stay in the bloodstream and go higher and higher until you have hyperglycemia, where your blood sugar is high. And that's where the problem comes in. So now you know what causes and how insulin resistance works. These are a closer look at those insulin receptors and the gate that we're talking about. And you can see they're together, they're usually close together, and those insulin receptors, again, trigger those gates to open to allow the glucose to get into that cell. Then there's antigens. We've talked about antigens before. Now you're going to get a closer look. They're shown up there in the upper right-hand corner, but again, they're not just located in one spot like that. They're actually located all around your entire perimeter of every one of your cells. And those antigens, which you see a closer picture of there, have little antennas. And those little antennas reach out into that blood flow that's flowing around the outside of every cell. And those antigens are looking for things that shouldn't be there. It could be another food item that you're not, that has antigens that are not complementary to yours. So you might, it's not an allergy per se, but you won't eat that food because it has a negative reaction in your body. But it can also be pathogens or viruses or bacteria, or it could be chemicals, just like the ones that are in your medications. So you can see that what they might look like in the rendition on the right-hand side, that all the way around the cell, that these antigens protrude out into that bloodstream, and they're constantly looking for those invaders. And you remember from our inflammation videos, then those will contact your immune system. Your immune system will come in and put antibodies around those invaders, and then they will destroy them and get them out of your bloodstream. So now you know some of the basic parts that make the outside of the cell. Now next, in video lesson part 2, you're going to learn about what is inside and how these amazing little cities function to keep you functioning and alive. So now proceed to lesson number 2, part 2, Cellular Basics Continued. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. You're very welcome to watch it as often as you need. You can stop it if you need to take notes, but please pay it forward. Share what you've learned with others so that they can benefit from it as well. Thank you.